The stars outside the viewport looked calm, but General Vrazek felt none of that calm inside. His claws tapped against the metal table as he waited for the report. The War Council chamber was filled with high-ranking officers from his own species. The Krixar Dominion. The air smelled of tension and recycled oxygen. A young officer entered quickly, his breathing uneven. He bowed deeply before speaking. "General, the humans have sent a message." His voice carried a strange weight, as if he knew the words would trouble everyone in the room. Vrazek straightened in his seat, his tall frame casting a shadow across the table. "Read it," he ordered. The officer's eyes darted nervously. "Across the room before speaking, return our children, or we will come for them." The silence that followed was thick and heavy. One admiral shifted uncomfortably. Another cleared his throat, but said nothing. No one wanted to be the first. To break the silence, Vrazek's voice came low and sharp. "How many?" 32, the officer answered. "Taken during the raids on the colony at Viridian 6. The general's black eyes narrowed. "They are prisoners of war." Nothing more, but deep down, he remembered the stories. The old war legends that every Krixar soldier had heard. About what humans would do when you harmed their young. The elders called them deathworlders. Dangerous, relentless, a species that could not be intimidated. Once you touched what was theirs. Across the table, Admiral Riken spoke slowly. "General, I have fought humans before. They are unlike any other species. They may negotiate for territory. They may surrender resources. But if their children are taken..." He trailed off, his eyes meeting Vrazek's in silent warning. The general waved a claw dismissively. "You think they will dare invade Krixar space? We are the most powerful force in this sector." "Powerful," Riken said softly, "until they decide we are the enemy of their children." The holographic display at the center of the table flickered, showing human ships gathering at the border. Their designs were nothing like the sleek warships of the Krixar. They looked rough, built for function over beauty. But every officer in the room knew those ships were deadly. Vrazek's second in command, Commander Tar, leaned closer. "General, I advise returning the young ones quietly before they cross into our space." The general's pride flared. "You would have me bow to them?" Tar's voice dropped even lower. "I would have you keep our world safe. You have not seen what they become when you make them angry." Outside the chamber, the corridors of the flagship buzzed with activity. Soldiers in black armor marched quickly, carrying weapons to armories. Crews prepared defensive positions, even though no order had been given. Word was spreading. Humans were coming dot in the prisoner section of the ship. The 32 human children sat in a wide room with metal walls. Some clung to each other. Others stared at the guards with silent, defiant eyes. The oldest among them, a boy of perhaps 12, had not spoken since capture. But when he saw one of the guards watching him, he smiled. It was not the smile of a frightened child. It was the smile of someone who knew rescue was coming. That smile haunted the guard all the way back to his post. Back in the War Council, the discussion had grown louder. Some officers urged negotiation, others demanded war. Vrazek listened, but gave no decision. Then the communication panel on the wall lit up with an incoming transmission. The room fell silent. The alien general nodded to his aide, who accepted the call. A human appeared on the screen. He was dressed in dark military uniform, his face calm but his eyes sharp and cold. "I am Commander Mitchell of Earth Defense Fleet," he said. "You have something that belongs to us." Vrazek spoke with forced confidence. "They are prisoners of war. The rules do not matter," Mitchell interrupted. "You will return them, all of them. You have 72 hours. Vrazek let out a low growl. "And if I refuse?" The human leaned forward slightly. His voice was almost a whisper, but every syllable carried the weight of certainty. Then you will learn what humans become when you threaten our children." The screen went black. For the first time in years, General Vrozek felt something unfamiliar, the cold grip of fear. Around him, the council members looked shaken. The legends were real, and the countdown had begun. In the far corner of the room, Admiral Riken spoke quietly to no one in particular. "They will come. And when they do, the stars themselves will tremble." Vrozek stood slowly, his claws curling against the table. Pride told him to hold the children. Fear told him to let them go. Between those two forces, war began to take shape. The War Council chamber was quiet long after the transmission ended. No one dared to speak. The shadow of the human commander's words seemed to linger in the air, heavy and cold. General Vrozek turned his gaze to the holographic map. Small red markers showed the position of human fleets near Krixar borders. Every hour, more markers appeared. Commander Tar broke the silence. "General, they are massing forces faster than our scouts can track." "This is no bluff." Vrozek's jaw tightened. "Even so, our fleets are larger. Our weapons are stronger. Their speed will mean nothing when they meet our firepower." Admiral Riken shook his head slowly. "You do not understand, General. They are not coming for conquest. They are coming for blood. That makes them unstoppable." A low murmur ran through the other officers. None wanted to admit fear, but it was there. They had all heard the ancient whispers about humans, that they were predators born from a hostile world, that they had fought wars long before spaceflight, and that nothing in the galaxy could match their fury when provoked. Vrozek's pride demanded he hold his ground. Yet the look in the human commander's eyes, that absolute certainty, gnawed at him. He had seen that look before, but only in the eyes of soldiers who knew they could not lose. Far away, on the edge of human space, the Earth Defense Fleet was moving. Hundreds of ships accelerated toward Krixar territory. Their hulls bore no decoration, no sign of beauty. They were made for one purpose, to deliver destruction. On the lead ship, Commander Mitchell stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. "Any response from them?" he asked his communications officer. "None, sir, but our long-range sensors confirm they've begun fortifying border outposts." Mitchell's expression didn't change. "Good, let them prepare. It will make no difference." In the Krixar flagship, Vrozek summoned a private meeting with his most trusted commanders. The room was dim, the walls lined with tactical displays. "We will use the children as leverage," he said firmly. "We will offer an exchange for territory." Tar's voice rose with urgency. "General, listen to me. They will not trade. They will not accept any deal. They will take the children back and destroy any who stand in their way." "Then let them try," Vrozek snarled. Meanwhile, in the prisoner section, the human children remained calm. The guards expected fear, but instead found strange discipline. They spoke quietly to each other, passed food around in silence, and watched everything with sharp eyes. The oldest boy, the same one who had smiled before, seemed to lead them. One guard reported this behavior to his superior. "It's as if they know something we don't," he said uneasily. The superior dismissed him with a wave. But doubt was growing among the crew. By the second day, human ships had entered neutral zones. Krixar listening posts sent urgent reports. Entire patrol fleets were vanishing without trace. The few survivors spoke of precision strikes, ships disabled in seconds, and human boarding parties that moved like shadows. On the bridge of the flagship, Vrozek received a grim update. "General, outpost Drelfor has fallen. No survivors." Vrozek's claws dug into the armrest of his command chair. "How long until they reach our line?" 36 hours, perhaps less." In the War Council, Admiral Riken stood once more. "General, this is your last chance. Return the children now, before they reach us." Vrozek stared at him, pride and fear warring within. "And if I do, they will think us weak." Riken's voice was steady. No, General. They will think. US-wise, and they will leave. But if we refuse, they will come, and we will not stop them. A silence fell. Everyone waited for the General's answer. But before he could speak, a transmission alert sounded. Another message from the humans. The image of Commander Mitchell filled the screen again. 48 hours are over, he said coldly. You have not returned them. Vrazak straightened. We will discuss. There's nothing to discuss, Mitchell cut in. We are already on our way. When we arrive, you will give them back, or you will no longer have a fleet to protect you. The screen went dark. The War Council erupted into argument, but Vrazak barely heard them. His mind was fixed on the map. The red markers were moving faster now, closing the distance like predators, honing in on prey. In the quiet of the prisoner room, the oldest boy looked at the younger children. Get ready, he whispered. They're coming for us. None of them asked who they were. They already knew. The red markers on the holographic map were no longer scattered. They had merged into a single massive wave, moving straight toward Krixar space. The War Council room felt smaller now, the air heavier with every passing minute. General Vrazak stood at the center, his eyes fixed on the display, as if sheer willpower could slow the human advance. Report, he demanded. Human fleet has breached the neutral zone, said the officer at the console. First contact with our forward scouts lasted less than 3 minutes. All scouts destroyed. The words hung in the air like a death sentence. No one in the room dared to meet Vrazak's gaze. Commander Tar stepped forward. General, I beg. You, reconsider. The children are not worth the destruction of our fleets, our colonies, our very world. Vrazak's pride flared again, but it felt weaker this time. If we give them up now, we will appear weak before the other empires. Rekken's voice cut through the tension. If you keep them, there will be no empire to appear strong for. Before Vrazak could reply, the main view screen lit up with a live feed from the border defenses. The image shook violently as explosions tore through the defense platforms. Human ships moved in perfect formation, their weapons firing with surgical precision. They are targeting engines first, the tactical officer reported. Disabling ships instead of destroying them outright. That makes no sense, another officer muttered. It makes perfect sense, Recken said darkly. They want witnesses. Survivors to spread the fear. In the prisoner section, the human children sat quietly as the distant thuds of ship-to-ship combat echoed through the walls. The oldest boy, Lucas, looked at the others and gave a small nod. Stay calm, he whispered. They'll be here soon. A young girl with tear-streaked cheeks clung to him. How do you know? Because they're my family, Lucas said simply. And humans don't leave family behind. Back on the bridge, alarms blared as another outpost reported destruction. The human fleet was advancing too quickly. Even the most optimistic defense projections showed they would reach Krixar home space within 20 hours. Vrazak turned to his intelligence chief. What do we know about their commander? Name is Mitchell, decorated in multiple conflicts. Known for unconventional tactics. His record shows zero tolerance for civilian harm, especially children. The general's eyes narrowed. So this is personal. Very personal, the intelligence chief replied. 2 of the children taken from Viridian 6 belong to his home colony. The realization hit Vrazak like a cold blade. This wasn't just a mission for the humans. It was vengeance. Another transmission came in. But this time it wasn't from the human fleet. It was from a neighboring alien empire, the Zikari. Their leader appeared on screen, his insectoid features unreadable. Vrazak, he said, return the humans young. Even we know better than to provoke their wrath. We do not bow to outsiders, Vrazak replied, his voice sharp. The Zikari leader tilted his head. Then you will bow to your own ashes. We will not aid you in this war. The screen went dark. In the War Council, panic was beginning to surface. Officers spoke over each other, arguing whether to fight to the last or surrender quietly. Reckon rose to his feet. General, you must decide now. Every moment you hesitate brings them closer. Vrozek's claws tightened on the edge of the table. His mind screamed to hold the children, to force the humans into negotiation. But another part, the part that had seen the fire in Mitchell's eyes, whispered that this was a battle. They could not win. He opened his mouth to speak, but a sudden tremor shook the ship. The lights flickered, and the tactical officer shouted, "Human strike craft have breached the outer perimeter. They're moving toward us." "How?" Vrozek demanded. "They used stealth drives, undetectable until they were right on top of us." In the prisoner room, the doors hissed open. A squad of human Marines in black armor stormed in, weapons raised but not firing. The children's eyes lit up. Lucas stood, stepping forward. "Took you long enough," he said with a grin. Lead Marine's helmet tilted slightly, almost like a smile. "We aim to please, let's get you home." In the War Council, a voice crackled over the comms. "General Vrozek, this is Commander Mitchell. I am aboard your flagship. I have the children. Your fleet is surrounded. Surrender now, and I will. Leave your worlds intact." Vrozek's throat went dry. Around him, every officer stared in disbelief. The humans were not just at their gates. They were already inside. The War Council chamber was frozen in shock. The words of Commander Mitchell still echoed in the air like an unshakable truth. He was not threatening from a distance anymore. He was already on board. General Vrozek's claws clenched. "Seal the ship," he barked. "Lock all bulkheads. Flood the corridors with gas. Do whatever it takes to stop them." The tactical officer hesitated. "General, they are moving faster than we can track. Every bulkhead they pass is already under their control." Raken's voice was quiet, almost respectful. "General, it is over." Vrozek turned sharply. "We still have weapons." "Weapons mean nothing if the enemy is already standing in your command hall," Raken replied. "They are not here to destroy us. They are here to take their children. If we fight now, they will change their mission to destroying us entirely." Meanwhile, deep in the ship's lower decks, human Marines moved like shadows. Their armor absorbed the dim lighting, their steps were silent. They passed Krixar guards, without firing a shot, only disabling them with quick, precise strikes. They carried the human children in protective harnesses, moving them toward the extraction point. Lucas held onto the Marine carrying him, glancing around at the speed of their rescue. "You took the whole ship this fast?" he asked. "Faster than that," the Marine replied through his helmet. "But we took our time so no one gets hurt. Orders from the top." Back on the bridge, Vrozek paced like a caged predator. Every instinct told him to fight, to strike, to defend the honor of the Krixar Dominion. But the reports coming in were impossible to ignore. "General, multiple decks are lost," an officer reported. "They have control of engineering. Weapons are offline. Shield generators disabled. Where is Mitchell now?" Vrozek demanded. Before the officer could answer, the doors to the War Council chamber hissed open. Two human Marines stepped inside, weapons held at ease but ready. Between them walked Commander Mitchell. He didn't look around at the alien architecture. His eyes locked directly on Vrozek. "You have something that belongs to us," Mitchell said, his voice calm but absolute. Vrozek straightened to his full height. "Your soldiers are inside my flagship. You violated. "First," Mitchell interrupted, "when you took our children." He stepped forward. "They are safe now. I am giving you one chance to end this without blood." The room was silent. Krixar officers watched in disbelief. No one had ever spoken to their general this way and lived. Vrozek's pride burned hot, but fear burned hotter. "If I surrender," he said slowly, "what guarantees do I have that you will leave?" Mitchell's answer was simple: "My word. And the knowledge that I do not make empty promises." In the corner of the room, Riken spoke softly. "General, if you order the fleet to stand down, our people live. If you do not, this ship will be the first to fall. The rest will follow." The weight of the decision crushed Vrazak's chest. He looked at the officers around him, some desperate, some ashamed, some silently begging for survival. He thought of the Krixar worlds, their cities, their children. And he thought of the human children who had been on his ship, now free. Finally, Vrazak lowered his head. "Order all fleets to stand down." The tactical officer's hands trembled as he sent the signal. Across Krixar space, warships powered down weapons and opened communication channels to the human fleet. Mitchell didn't smile. He simply nodded once. "Wise choice. Your people will live to see another day." He turned and began to leave, but paused at the door. "Remember this, General. You can fight us over territory, resources, pride, and we will meet you as soldiers. But if you ever touch our children again, we will not come to talk. We will come to end you." When the humans were gone, the War Council sat in heavy silence. Some officers felt relief, others humiliation. But all of them understood one thing now: the stories about humans were not exaggerated. They were warnings, far away. As the human fleet withdrew, Mitchell stood on his bridge watching the stars slide past. The children were safe in medbays, reunited with their parents. Yet his eyes were still hard. "They'll think twice next time," he said quietly. Krixar space had gone silent. The war fleets that once patrolled the borders now floated idle, their weapons cold. On every world, news of the general's surrender spread quickly. Some citizens were relieved, others furious. But no one dared to question why. The humans had come and left like a storm, and the Krixar Dominion had survived only because they chose to dot in the grand halls of the Krixar capital. The council demanded answers. General Vrazak stood before them, the weight of his defeat heavy on his shoulders. "You surrendered our fleets without a fight," one counselor hissed. "Do you realize the shame this brings?" Vrazak's voice was low but firm. "I saved our worlds from destruction. You speak of shame, I speak of survival." Another counselor leaned forward, her eyes sharp. "Are you saying the humans could have beaten us?" "I am saying," Vrazak replied, "that they already had, before we even knew they were here." The council chamber fell silent at those words. For all their arrogance, the Krixar leaders could not ignore the truth. The humans had entered their flagship, taken what they came for, and left without suffering a single loss. That kind of precision was not just strength, it was dominance. Meanwhile, in human space, the return of the children was met with quiet joy. Families embraced their young with tearful relief. News feeds across Earth and its colonies praised the rescue mission, showing images of the Marines carrying the children out of the alien ship. On the flagship Resolute, Commander Mitchell walked the medbay, speaking with each child and ensuring they were comfortable. When he reached Lucas, the boy saluted him with a small grin. "You came fast," Lucas said. Mitchell knelt beside him. "We came the only speed we know, fast enough to make sure no one touches you again." Back in Krixar territory, whispers began to spread beyond the council chambers. Other alien species were watching. Reports from the Zikari, the Vornak, and even the distant Earl hinted at a growing unease. If the humans could walk into the heart of the Krixar Dominion and leave untouched, what could they do to anyone else? In a dark meeting hall on the Krixar homeworld, several high-ranking officers met in secret. "We cannot let this stand," one of them growled. "If we allow the humans to think they can dictate terms to us, we will be nothing in the eyes of the galaxy." Another officer, younger and less blinded by pride, shook his head. "You speak as if we can defeat them. Did you not see what they did? They crippled our fleets without firing a single heavy weapon. They took our general's ship as if it were theirs. The older officer's eyes narrowed. Then we prepare. We learn. The next time we will not be caught unready. But deep down, even he knew that preparation might never be enough, that the galaxy's information networks lit up with rumors. Some claimed the humans had used cloaking devices beyond any known technology. Others whispered that they fought with machines, guided by something more intelligent than any alien commander. But the most persistent rumor was simpler, that humans were driven not by strategy, but by something far more dangerous, an unbreakable bond to protect their own. Vrazek sat alone in his quarters aboard his now stationary flagship. The ship felt different now, quieter, almost hollow. He replayed Mitchell's words in his mind. If you ever touch our children again, we will not come to talk. We will come to end you. For the first time in his career, Vrazek felt truly small. Not because his fleet had been defeated, but because he had seen the depth of human resolve. A private message arrived on his console. It was from Reckon. The text was short. We must never cross them again. This is the only way the Dominion survives. On the Resolute, Mitchell received his own message. A simple confirmation from Earth Command. Mission complete, all safe, yet there was no celebration. For him and his crew, this was not a victory to boast about. It was a reminder, a warning to the galaxy that humans did not start wars, but they ended them when family was threatened. And somewhere in the space between Krixar and human territories, merchant ships and travelers began to whisper a new truth. It was not a story written in official records, but one carried in the voices of those who had seen the aftermath. If you take human children, you don't get to keep them. You don't even get to keep your pride. Weeks passed, but the shadow of that single mission lingered over the Krixar Dominion like a storm that never cleared. Trade slowed. Border patrols reported fewer ships approaching. Even their rivals no longer tested them, not out of respect, but because they feared that crossing the Krixar might somehow draw humanity's gaze again. General Vrazek moved through the capital under heavy guard, though not because of danger from humans. It was his own people who looked at him differently now, some with blame, others with silent gratitude. He was no longer just a commander. He was the man who had faced the humans and chosen to live. In the council chamber, the atmosphere was tense. A message from the Galactic Concord had arrived, one that was already shaking political circles across the sector. The Concord, a coalition of multiple empires, had proposed a new interspecies agreement. At its center was a single clause: no power in the galaxy would ever take or harm human young again. When the clause was read aloud, murmurs rippled through the room. They are one species, a counselor scoffed. Why should the galaxy change? Its laws for them? Vrazek's voice cut in, steady but hard. Because they earned it. Because if this law is ignored, the ones who ignore it will not live to regret it. The room quieted. Even those who despised him could not dismiss the weight behind his words. Far from the capital, the Resolute returned to Earth. The children were home, but Mitchell remained on alert. Reports from intelligence suggested other species were debating how to handle this new reality, some cautious, others already considering how to avoid humanity entirely. In a private briefing, an admiral asked Mitchell, "Do you think the Krixar will retaliate?" "No," Mitchell replied simply. "They've seen what happens. They won't risk it again." "But others might." The admiral frowned. "Then what's our stance?" Mitchell's eyes held the same cold certainty he'd shown in the Krixar Council. "The same as it's always been. You touch our children, you disappear from the stars." Back in Krixar space, Admiral Reckon visited Vrazek in his private quarters. The general sat by the viewport, watching the slow drift of ships in the docking bays. "You've been quiet," Reckon said. Vrazek didn't turn. "The galaxy will never see us the same way again. They think we are weak. No, Reckon said. Walking closer. They think we are alive. That's more than can be said for anyone who's crossed the humans. Vrazek gave a bitter laugh. You almost sound like you respect them. I do, Reckon admitted. And so should you. They came into the heart of our power and took back what was theirs without killing any of our civilians. That's not weakness on our part, it's power on theirs. Power restrained. That word lingered with Vrazek long after Reckon left. Power restrained. The humans had shown that they could burn the Dominion to ash, but they had chosen not to. It wasn't mercy in the traditional sense. It was a warning. 2 days later, the Galactic Concord's law was ratified. The clause about human children passed unanimously. Even species that had never seen a human before signed it without argument. In the months that followed, rumors spread faster than ships could travel. Stories told in mining outposts and deep space bars painted the humans as something more than just warriors. They were protectors with an unshakable code. One story always rose above the rest. The Krixar took human children. The humans came, and the Krixar lived only because the children came home unharmed. In time, even Krixar parents began telling that story to their young, not to frighten them, but to teach them about consequences. General Vrazek remained in command, though his power was different now. He was no longer feared for his victories, but for the single time he had chosen not to fight. And deep down, he knew it was the only reason his empire still existed. On Earth, Lucas visited the Resolute with his family. He found Commander Mitchell on the observation deck, watching the stars. Do you think they'll ever try it again? Lucas asked. Mitchell's gaze stayed on the dark expanse beyond the glass. Not the Krixar. They learned. But someone else might. And if they do, we'll be ready. Lucas nodded, a small smile forming. They should know by now. We're hard to scare. Mitchell finally looked at him, a rare smile touching his face. It's not about scaring us, Lucas. It's about making us care. And once we care, there's nothing in this galaxy that can stop us. The stars outside glimmered silently, as if in agreement. Somewhere out there, empires rose and fell. But one truth had been carved into the history of the galaxy. Humans might not start wars over territory or pride. But if you threatened their family, you would learn what true panic was, and you would never forget it. Asterisk.